August, the last Count Corla. Could I have my mic on, please? I want to start by arguing that I believe that this motion has really nothing to do with energy security, but everything to do with profit and bottom-line security of Providence Resources. Perhaps the rural deputies might consider altering their headed paper and just say, instead of "I'm working on behalf of the people of this or that county," working on behalf of big oil and gas. It seems they really believe that Providence Oil and Gas will be the saviour of us all. If only we could free Providence from the nasty grip of the Green Party, they'll bring down the cost of living, cure climate change, bring joy to the poor towns and village dwellers, and replenish the state's tax coffers, and probably even defeat Putin into the bargain. Apparently, Providence Oil and Gas has a miraculous quality that makes them different to other oil and gas companies. Not so long ago, I was accused by one of these climate warriors of hypocrisy because I drive a diesel van. But it turns out that once my diesel van and everyone else's diesel van runs on Providence Oil, then the problem would be solved. According to the Lobby Register, Providence Resources have not approached a single TD or official in this Dáil since May 2020, when they last met Deputy McGrath to discuss the wonders of Barry Rowe. It must have been some meeting, because 2 years later, despite the turbulent time the company has had, Deputy McGrath was so impressed by the briefing that he's composed one of the longest motions in the Dáil, a love-struck motion to a private oil and gas company. I note the Deputy's concern with us being dependent on various dictators and tyrants for our oil and gas, but they don't seem to realise that Providence would have no issue, and never has, entering a marriage with a Chinese or Qatar state if it meant they could exploit Barry Rowe. I agree that we do need to get away from dependence on oil and gas from dictators, but I go much further and say we need to get away from dependence on oil and gas full stop. Whether it's fracked US gas, Canadian crude oil or Russian gas, we need to get off this train as soon as possible. But I do have to commend the motion nevertheless in its achievement to cram so many half-truths, misleading statements and outright falsehoods into one motion, but they did manage it, and I want to go through a few of them. The first one, an extremely invulnerable, utterly unsustainable position in terms of energy security and supply. This is not true. What makes us insecure is the crazed policy of allowing data centres to proliferate, a policy that the deputies very much support, regardless of whether these centres consume 14% or 30% of all the electricity we make. Another one, a half-truth: all Irish consumers will face much higher fossil fuel prices following the EU leaders' agreement to ban most Russian oil imports. We face these hikes primarily because of profiteering by the energy companies and the private firms. We don't depend on Russian gas. Profits have leaped up enormously since this crisis, and that's an aspect of the free market. A market I am in favour of regulating and controlling against profiteering, but the deputies are strong believers in that free market, and why wouldn't they be? The monetary cost of importing oil represents a net loss to the Irish economy and the exchequer. This is utterly untrue. Whatever Providence Resources does with its fields, it will sell its oil and gas at market prices to whoever wants it. That's the terms of the lease and licensing this state has handed out. There's absolutely nothing to say that they must or will sell to this state, and absolutely nothing to say that they will do so cheaper than the oil and gas we currently import. It would be very good news for the Providence shareholders, but it won't make a blind bit of difference to the people of this country. Do the deputies believe that Shell or Statoil sell us Corrib gas cheaper because they put on the green jersey? The biggest and most dangerous untruth is the one that says there is no justifiable case for not developing our own available gas and oil. This is a slap in the face to the school strikers and the climate movement, a death sentence to millions in the developing world, and a condemnation for this and future generations. No justifiable case, not the science that says we've 10 years to reduce our emissions, not the International Energy Agency that says that the globe cannot build new fossil fuel infrastructure, not the last IPCC report which told us that our carbon budget would run out in years, or that investing in new fossil fuel infrastructure is moral and economic madness. Moral and economic madness is an apt description of this motion. Providence Resources, they say, unreservedly supports government and EU policies aimed at tackling climate change. Well, maybe in their imagination, in the same way that Shell, BP, Exxon or Saudi Aramco do. They do so in words, while they pursue with every fibre of their being the pursuit of drilling and profiteering from oil and gas so long as it is possible. To hell with future generations is the cry of the fossil fuel corporation industry and their shareholders. The enormous potential of Ireland becoming self-sufficient with full optimisation of Barry Rowe is another claim, and that is a claim that there are 300 million barrels of oil in Barry Rowe, and it would not make a jot of difference to Ireland's economy, its energy security or the ordinary people of this world. Its exploitation would swell the coffers of and the profits of the Providence shareholders, and across the globe, oil and gas companies and their backers make the same claims as they do here. In reality, they are destroying the planet and its future habitability. In April, we found that just 20 of the world's biggest oil and gas companies, including Shell, Exxon, Gazprom and others, are projected to spend $932 billion by the end of 2030 developing new oil and gas fields. Globally, we will emit more CO2 than ever in history this year. The levels of CO2 in the atmosphere will reach historic highs, but none of it, not the extremes in heat that are affecting millions across the globe, not the drought, not the storms, none of this matters to those here who see only a few dollars more in the oil and gas industry. We need to keep it in the ground. We need to make sure that every available penny for investment finds its way into renewable energy, into retrofitting every home and paying for free, frequent public transport across the country. They are right in that the Greens are failing, but not ironically as the deputies seem to think. They are failing to deliver radical measures on climate emergency demands, to stop data centres, to retrofit the homes on the scale we need, to deliver free public transport. We need that to tackle the root causes of the crisis. The clear contradictions in government policy allow climate deniers to deride all climate action. They put carbon taxes on ordinary people, while they support the proliferation of data centres and allow the fossil fuel industry and its backers to be able to say, look, it's a con, they just want to tax you, they're not serious at all. So to that end, we have put in an amendment to the motion. It'll probably never get heard, but I'd like to draw people's attention to it. It's quite a lengthy amendment. I believe I don't have to move it today, but we want to really get the deputies who've spoken here against this motion today to back that amendment if we get a chance. Thank you.